What we're going to do this morning, guys, is I'm going to blabber for a few minutes just to kind of get us recentered on this whole concept. Then we're going to kind of pick up where's Michael? Ah, there he is. Where Michael left off yesterday. And I'm going to basically go through this process with my own story, and he's going to rip it apart. So we can kind of see how it all works. And then what we're going to do is we're going to move into a session where if you guys have stories that you want to incorporate into your business, Michael, myself, and when John gets up, we're just going to critique them. So from the marketing side and also from the storytelling side, I think it'll be a lot of fun. We have Jimmy Davis, who's going to talk about high-ticket closing. One of the cool, when I hear a really good idea, I get excited. And the way that he has his closing process for high-ticket stuff is some of the coolest stuff I've ever seen. So we're going to do that. We're going to talk about traffic. We're going to go through like a bunch of our best like split testing breakthroughs and business building deals. Russell's going to do his 8-figure. What's the presentation called?
I need a name for it. It's awesome though, I promise.
Yeah, I'm excited for that because when I saw the older version of it, it's like one of those experiences you never forget. So I was just thinking last night to some of the questions that we had, some of the things that came up. And I just wanted to reframe us based on the beginning. Where we started was with this invisible funnel where things finally clicked together for me. And these are basically the event stats. So just so I'm clear, all I did with this one where I actually got it right, which was cool about it, is I was actually lazy. I didn't have the time, or I didn't feel like I had the time to do a full email series, but I knew I had a cool story to tell. So I sent a few short emails to get a bunch of people registered for a webinar where instead of writing the emails, I would just tell them the story. And basically what I did was I incorporated Michael's entire portion of the story. Now, I'm still working on the inner stuff. So like, I think that stuff's incredibly powerful. You guys agree with that? Yeah. So I feel like once I get that clicked in here, man, this stuff is just going to continue to evolve. But I sent out a few emails. And to be clear, it was just to a regular GoToMeeting registration page to my list, right? So there was nothing fancy about it. The only thing about the GoToMeeting registration for the free event was that it had a story hook. So this is literally the headline: from bankruptcy and addiction to $286,000 per month. Come join me and I'll share the complete story about things you've never heard before, and it's going to absolutely shock you. Something short like that, just to get them intrigued to get onto the event. Does that make sense? Nothing fancy, just what's the best hook I can come up with. And remember, we start with the premise, right? So we start with the premise is an idea that's a breakthrough for ourselves mentally, where we think one thing, but we figure something out, and it's slightly different than what we thought. So for this event, it was, I always thought list building was the best way to create a stable online business, but I had lots of ups and downs and ups and downs. Then I told this story where I got a whole bunch of stuff. I'll go through the whole thing, but at this point, I got a letter in the mail from the IRS saying I owed $983,000. It's like, this sucks, right? What do you do? Kim and I started compiling all of my documents, and there's one document that she put in front of me that made me just feel like a fool, but also, like I said before, it's like that moment in The Usual Suspect where the inspector, like he realized it was Kaiser Soze, but it was a little bit too late, you know? Like ultimate insight, but also a little bit, how could I be so stupid not to have seen this? And what that insight was, is she sent me an invoice for a company called Archamax. Archamax is an online newsletter. Now, since 2006, I'd spent at least $20,000 with this company every single year. Now, we spend a good deal more. And essentially, their business model had never changed. Since 2006, I don't think, since I started doing business with them, anything's changed in their business. Like they do the exact same thing, and they're on the Inc. Sum list for a very successful business, and I didn't get it until that point. What's their business? They're a newsletter publishing company. They sell advertising. Here I was always trying to pay for advertising to build my list. Why don't I flip the script and become the source of traffic for people? And once I did that, that's when my business took on a whole new level of stability and growth, and it wasn't long before we were doing a lot bigger numbers. And so that's the insight that people get. They go, oh, yeah, I'm always buying traffic. I never thought about actually delivering it to other people. And so then I go through all sorts of examples to kind of hammer that point home. But that's all an epiphany is. It's a slight twist. With this whole idea, conversion I've always thought of as a process of adding and tweaking a little bit more. But for me, this has been one of my most transformative insights, this invisible funnel process. And it has nothing to do with adding. It's all about taking away and simplifying the process, right? So same sort of a premise and epiphany, same sort of transformational story can be created. In this event, this is how it played out. We had 1,141 people register, 497 attended the free event, 228 registered for the invisible funnel event, which the proposition is, let me teach you all this stuff. Don't pay me a dime, let me teach you all this stuff. And if it's worth it, at the end, I'll happily, humbly accept the ticket fee of $97. If not, I'll give you an email address. So just send me an email, and you don't have to pay a dime. We'll give you everything. In fact, I'm excited because what we're going to do here is give you guys that same opportunity, right, for the recordings of this event. So we're going to invisible funnel you guys here today, see how it goes. Out of those people, we had 193 attend that event. And the cool thing is, let me see if I can pull down here so I can give you exact stats just from memory. $193 attended, and they stayed the entire time, okay? Like literally, it's 84.65% attended. And we think about a webinar, our hardest battle is to keep the attention of an audience, right? But this reframing of it from just come and let me teach you some stuff to it has a tangible expense. You're giving me your credit card information and you get to judge me. Creates this just focus that they want to call you out. They want you to fail. You know what I mean? It's like watching, what's a sport where you want to see people fail? Or like that guy, did you see the guy that walked across the Grand Canyon? It was on the Discovery Channel. People watch that because what if he falls? Yeah, I want to see if he falls, right? So they come with that sort of mindset. They want to see what's going to happen. And because of that, we have their total attention. So it gives us a perfect opportunity to just absolutely stuff them silly with information that they would have had to pay us on the front end, probably a lot more, right? If we were to do a whole sales process. But at the same time, engage them. You know, make sure they're getting it. Say, Jonathan, do you get this point? What's your insight on this point? What's your insight on this point, John?
Which is as far as the whole process, or?
This point right here of getting people to show up. When you did yours,
yeah.
When you did your first one, because you came to our first event, and I'm not calling you up, I'm just doing this for demonstration.
Yeah.
What was your insight in terms of doing the first one and having people show up and kind of put you on the spot?
Yeah, I mean, people, they were very excited about the whole thing. I mean, they wanted to see if I would perform and give the goods. And
yeah.
Like, I mean, just by the end of it, people were there. I mean, they were blown away, and they were just,
yeah.
I love it, you know. So.
And you're excited too, right? At the end, you're like, this is awesome. This is the most fun thing, most natural way to do this whole deal.
It was so easy. Like, I was just sharing stuff, how to do stuff, you know, and it was so easy. Like,
yeah.
So.
The flip side of it is from our side, at least from my experience, is like, it's so natural. It's just a fun experience. So it's very rare when something's so resistance-free fun and makes you more money. At the end of that event, when we interact like that, what happens is the guy that you interact with a little bit is the guy most likely to buy the next thing, right? So the whole time, so you weren't here, but the way we do this is in the event, I'll go to Facebook, have everybody register for my Facebook group, my Daegan Smith Facebook group, and then the whole time I'm in the event, I'm making them respond. I won't start the event until, let's say there's 228 people. I'll say, look, it looks like we got 228 or 193 people actually here. What I want you guys to do is come to the room, and I want to see at least 80% of you guys tell me that you can see me and you can hear me. We're not going to start until you do, because I already know this stuff, right? So I want you engaged. And so we.
Is it a generic group, or is it specific for this event?
Daegan Smith group, yeah. You can do it specific for the event, but I just think it's cool that whenever your prospects go to Facebook, they see your name and they see a bunch of activity around your name. So you always have top of mind awareness in the place where a lot of them are always hanging out, right? Let me get a little water or something. Because we over-deliver, what ends up happening is it gives us a perfect position to do a high-ticket offer that's at a higher level. Let's do this process together. You know, I've taught you everything. The only thing that I can do more is either do it for you or do it with you. Would you like to hear how we could do one of those things? Get their confirmation, they say yes. And in this event, we ended up with 97 applications out of 193 people, and we chose 27 people for a 10 to 15K a deal, and we ended up with about $315,000 plus in revenue. For me, for an idea that I just thought was good, and then 4 emails and a couple events later, that was pretty fun, you know? And so that's what this whole thing is all about. I see you smiling. He likes it. He's like, yeah, I'm going to go do this again now. Yeah.
Did you call him on the phone, or you just do it through email?
Good question. When I first did it, and the price point was $2,000 or less, when I was just kind of figuring out, I just sent them yeah, good question. So let me step back. In one of Dan Kennedy's books, he talks about, and I think it's a pricing strategy book, he talks about taking people out of their normal buying path. So I was very, what's the right word? Calculated in not putting them through a process that they would have gone through before. So when I had them email me directly, and in the first events, they're not used to doing that anyway, and just share with me why you should, get involved, or why you think this is a good deal for us to do this together. At first, I would just send them a link. Look, we've only got 20 slots. Here's your link. Get it. I've already sent this to like 20 other people. In later ones, I decided to have my operations manager call them, and every single person he got on the phone, he closed. So I was like, let's do that. That's a good idea. So from the applications, we would do a couple emails back and forth. I don't know if this guy's good enough. That point down there, I don't know if it's good. Rob, vet that person out, kind of push them away a little bit, and get them on the phone with Rob, who's my operations guy, and he would just close them, right? So that's the process. Yes?
You did the send them link. What percentage of people actually converted that way?
I don't know that number off the top of my head.
Ballpark?
I'd say 60% or so, 60% or so. And so like on the first time, most of them, I'd say about, and this is just coming from the top of my head, so I can tell you experientially how it went down. I sent them the link. Some people immediately took action. Some people took a little time, and so I just sent them an individual email the next day saying, hey, there's only like a couple of these left. You're about to miss out. Are you sure? Because I read your application. This is what you need to do. Why aren't you acting? And boom, they then buy. So it really is invisible, because on the closing and the high pressure stuff that you can apply, it's just one-to-one, right? So even if it's an email. Yeah.
2 questions. One, is there a reason why you're doing 2 webinars versus just going to, because the model I was exposed to was, at least watching Russell and Jeff and Rich, was pay me $1 or pay me nothing, and then versus that this is more like a 2 webinar sequence.
It is.
There's a 1 webinar sequence model as well, right?
Well, I'm the guy that like invented it, right? So like, yeah. No, and I'm not calling you out. I'm just saying, Russell. I don't know Russell's reason, but when we first started it, the 1 webinar way was how I did it. It was like a series of emails. I think on here, this has a resource where it's like one of those earlier series of emails, and it would just go to the invisible funnel proposition. Maybe it's on the next page here. So IF emails, if you, daegan.com, if-emails, if you go to that, it'll show you a series of emails that I did for one of the events. It was about email storytelling, email marketing. And it was just a 7, 5, 6, 7-part email series that went straight to the registration form. The reason for the 2-part webinar is it works better. You're getting them engaged in the free webinar. You're saying, you know, it looks like we have X number of people here, right? Hey, Matt, why aren't you responding? You know, they're getting engaged on that level. They're having that epiphany live with you, not passively because they're reading an email.
Right. I guess my question is, what do you cover in the first? What's the purpose of the first webinar? Is it to sell them to the $97?
It's to create the belief and desire that the idea, that's our premise, is going to solve all their problems through a story.
But you only divulge what that epiphany is on the 97. I'm trying to get a sense of what's covered in the first one and the second.
Yeah,
First webinar is that story selling process.
Yeah, and we haven't done it yet. Like we haven't gone through like the whole thing together, so that's why you're feeling this way. But it's to tell the story that brings them to your ultimate realization. Once they can experience that with you, then all they want is to have, you know, the realization of that good idea. So it's to tell that story and have that engagement.
And I noticed you have about 70 people you decline on the apps. The 27 here.
Which one?
I'm sorry, the 97 application, you closed 27.
Oh.
Did you pass those mostly because it wasn't a fit or because of funding issue?
Oh, I don't know. I just gave him a Rob. You know, that honestly, I trust him, so he brought in the people that he felt was right and were probably, you know, the most eager. But if I would have to have him here, I just didn't play with that. He's good at it, you know what I mean?
What did they get for 10 to 15 grand? What was the...
Oh, the offer?
Yeah.
So, showing up like the class. We've already been over this.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. It was I'll build your list for you, put you in the list publishing business, and because we own an advertising agency, we'll be your biggest client. So that means that starting next month, we're going to send you a check, and as your business grows, your checks will get bigger. Yeah.
So have you done that again with the same offer to a new group of people?
Yeah. I did it. Me and Jesse did it with their list, and it did well.
So my question is, when you've done it again, are you using case studies, testimonials, endorsements from the previous group included when you get to explain it with the offer?
When we did it, because I didn't, like the first time I did it, I brought like these guys in and we had a lot of fun with it. When I did it with him, it was just me. So I was using case studies from me telling the case study, not having the physical case study with me.
So you didn't have case studies?
Case studies meaning?
Some of the previous partners that you publishing.
Oh, I see. So here, preceding this, guys like Carlos, who I've worked with for a long time, we're doing this list publishing deal, and we didn't bring them into the business, but we'd partnered with them. We were buying their traffic because it was good quality, and so they were our first case studies. They were showing the back ends of their business, how it all worked, and so those were the original deals.
So is it safe to say that if you had proof of concept,
Yeah.
and it would be valuable to put it in the second webinar when you get to explaining if you want to work with us?
Yeah.
Is that a safe assumption?
Absolutely. When I'm creating the offer, I'm thinking about how can I demonstrate proof to this offer through, and I'm taking notes so I can include all of that in the content webinar so that when they get to that offer, it's, oh my gosh, yeah, of course this is the best offer ever. So absolutely, yeah. Any other questions? Yes, sir?
Recordings of these two webinars?
Yeah. I can give them to you. They're actually just on YouTube, I think, but I can pull up the links and give them to you. Let me think here. The free one is definitely on YouTube. The other one I might have it on like Amazon or something. So let's think. What else?
Okay, you've got your first one on YouTube. Is that to get traffic to the second one? What are you using that for?
I don't know. I don't do everything very, like for a very specific reason in that sense. You know what I mean? So after I did it, I put it there. Some people sent it out to my list. They could watch it, and we had some more people register for the second deal and go through the process too. But now it's just up there. You know what I mean? And we'll have people that just find it because they find my YouTube channel and say, hey, you still got that list publishing deal? You know what I mean? Yeah. So I could be more strategic about it in that sense, but it's just there because I put it there. Yeah.
The better question was, did it do anything for you? That's what I meant.
Oh, did it do anything? Yeah. In fact, like when I showed you the one for our solo ad secrets, just the regular yellow order form page, we'll have people register for that thing, and I'll get rogue emails saying, hey, when can I come to that next event? Because the back-end offer for that was one of our first invisible funnel small man workshops. And so I'll get these emails saying, hey, I want to come to the next invisible funnel workshops. I'm like, no, we're not doing that. Sorry. So yeah, it works passively. All they gotta do is consume the content, and they continue to do their deal. So on this stuff, what I was thinking about was, the cool thing about this is that it's always evolving. Like what this is next year isn't gonna be what it is now. And so what I wanted to share with you guys was just a couple of ideas I have in terms of improving this. So, and this specifically speaks to the storytelling stuff. This is a launch that I did, man, it had to be back in 07 or so, and I don't know why I didn't do this again, but I told you guys about it a little bit. I just wrote a story, right? So this whole sales letter is a story about, and the angle of the story is, what if you were there at the beginning of something big? Pretty much that's the feeling. And what if you had all the right pieces in place? That's what network marketers want to feel, right? What if all the right people, all the right pieces, and you knew this was going to be big and you were there first? What would you do? And so for this letter, because I didn't really know how to launch it or anything like that, all I did was I took, after I wrote this letter, maybe I'd go to like this point and they wouldn't see any of this. I just cut that off. Underneath this would be a little opt-in that said, subscribe here for first to be in the front of the line when we do open the doors, and to get chapter 2 hours earlier than everyone else. So kind of like a lazy man's launch, right? And it worked really well. So one of the ideas, and I would do part 2, chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4, chapter 5, chapter 6, and then chapter 7 was, oh, we're open, and then that was a crazy day. Phones were ringing like off the hook. But what I'm thinking about is I haven't tried this with this process, and I think it would be kind of cool to incorporate the two, which would be, for the storytelling component, unveil it a little bit a chapter at a time. Like on a blog, let them give you feedback, then go back to that same blog post chapter 2 below it, right? Give them a little box to opt in. And where's Roger at? Roger was talking about he put different videos on a page, on the registration page. So I think that's a really good idea, and it's something that I'll be testing. But one of the things that I think that I've tested in the past that's also worked in like a lazy man's launch way is just doing a series of emails, chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, giving them a link to an opt-in box. Just go register here so you're in the front of the line. And then those registrants, I would just like mess with them. I would like send them like little 2-minute clip videos like, oh my gosh, I just opened up like my autoresponder and do a quick video showing, man, it looks like we've got like 800 people from all over the world. Man, we're only gonna have like 500 spots or 300 spots or whatever it is. Man, I didn't expect all this so quick. Man, I hope you guys are ready, you know? So just building them up with little short videos like that over the period of a week or so, whatever the launch period is. But nothing fancy, just, hey, I just want to give you the behind the scenes look at what's going on. That worked really well too. So I think incorporating those ideas would add a lot of power and energy to this whole process, in that they're consuming the story and they're getting feedback on how exciting the story is from back end, you know, let me show you what you don't see sort of videos. Kind of doing what a product launch does, but in the most simplest way. Another good little hook, and then we'll get into the whole process here, is I like the way Roger was doing videos, giving them a sneak peek and another cool piece that they're not getting in the story by opting in. There's one piece I didn't tell you here, I got to show it to you. So make sure you're on the registration list. Now they're really, really sucked in, right? So these are just some good ideas I was thinking about last night and this morning that can definitely add to this equation. Cool? Is it good food for thought? Was that worth like sharing? Yes. Yeah? Okay. So Michael, would you like to help me with my story? All right. So let me remind you guys. Okay. So this is the typical hero's journey as I know it. And this is going to be an evolution for me too, because the terms he used to describe the different stages are different slightly than the terms that he used when I first went through your stuff to start to incorporate this. So what I typically do is I'll have this graph, in my big notebook that you guys saw earlier, I'll just draw it out. And for each of these points, and I'll describe them as I understand them, I'll find an episode or an experience in my life that correlates with that. So for identification, one of the things I might do is I might start exactly as I did when I shared my story with you guys earlier. 1 second. In fact, premise. Let's go back to the beginning. So let's use the list publishing thing because that's what we've used most. So my premise here is when your business becomes a source of traffic, that's when it turns into a never-ending cash machine, okay? The commonly held belief would be if you build your list, you'll make money. But when you change that to when you build a list that delivers traffic to others, that's when your business becomes incredibly stable on a lot of different levels, okay? And so for identification, we can put a person in jeopardy. We can, another one was like you can make people kind of feel embarrassed for the person or something like this. And so where I'll start is just with my experience coming online. The idea that, or the experience that I remember of me one morning, waking up in the shower And for some reason, I'd done the same thing every single day. You know, alarm clock goes off at 6. You're like, oh, I'm not getting up. You hit it. You go back to sleep. Goes off at 6:15. You hit it. Go back to sleep. Eventually, 7:45 rolls around. You got like 20 minutes to get to work. You get out of bed. You know, get the sleep out of your eyes. Take a quick shower. Put on the suit and tie, and you go to work. And well, this particular morning, I remember when I got in the shower, a question popped in to my head that it freaked me out. The question was, what's the rest of your life going to look like? You know, if this is what it is now, realizing every single day is the same, what's your life going to look like 5 years from now? And all I could see was a fatter, more just depressed and apathetic version of myself going nowhere. And that's not the version of me that I saw, that I remembered having as a kid. I remember as a kid, I had pictures of Lamborghinis on my wall, and I wanted to just do whatever I wanted. And here I was in this little spot where, man, life wasn't even close to what I thought it was going to be. And that fear, for me, like probably a lot of other people, sent me on a search. I didn't know where to search, so I just started like buying books. I started buying stuff like Creating Wealth by Robert Allen, and eventually that led me to the idea that real estate would be a good option. So, like a sensible person would do, so I'm trying to add in some of the identity essence, I started to save my money. I started to save $500 a month so that I can invest in real estate. And at the same time, I was also watching things like infomercials late at night. And you know, when you watch those infomercials, it's late at night, you see those guys, they're like, you know, they're definitely dumber than you. You know, they got like 3 teeth, and they're like, I made $37,000 on my first deal. Man, this is awesome. And you see that guy, and you're like, come on, man, I could do that. So in a place of weakness, you end up at the free hotel meeting. You sign up, and you go to the free hotel meeting. And for me, that hotel meeting was at a Holiday Inn, right? I've told you guys about this. And so now I'm going to move to desire. So before you have a tangible goal, you have a little bit of a desire. And so when I showed up to this hotel meeting, I immediately regretted it. I mean, I could smell the desperation in the air. Like I said before, like Kim and I lived not far from a methadone clinic, and I could swear, man, half the people in that room were standing in line for that methadone clinic, like at 5:15 in the morning, scratching their arms, you know. And so I averted my eyes and sat in the very back seat, very back seat. And I just like, didn't want anyone to see me. I looked up, and I actually saw my high school lacrosse coach. And I was like, dude, I didn't know you were desperate too. So but I didn't let him see me, right? So I stayed in the back row, and I sat there, and I heard this guy start to tell this amazing story. Now, he was wearing a suit and tie, and everyone was captivated. And I just remember at the end of that story, the guy stood up, and he said, everyone stand up, go to the back of the room, and invest in my deal. Now, it wasn't for me, so I didn't get up, but I watched this audience. 100 desperate methadone clinic just going to people, getting up, going to the back of this room, and giving this guy $1,000. For me, that was magic. I'd never seen anything like that before in my entire life. Because I did the math. In my head, I was like, right now at my job, I make about $36,000 per year, somewhere in that range, I think. And what would it take for me to get to $100,000? Maybe, like, if I play all my cards right, in 5, 10 years, maybe I could get promoted to the level of $100,000. But the chances aren't that high. Yet here this guy is, up in front of an audience, telling an awesome story. telling people to go to the back of the room and making $100,000 an hour. I'd never seen anything like it. And you know, what I learned was that, and I didn't even know it at this point, but when you have the right audience, you never go broke. That's something you should write down, right? No, you don't have to. I'm just telling you the story. And I do that because my premise here is list building. So if I say, if you have the right audience, you can never go broke. Well, if you have a list online, think about it. Same thing, you can never go broke. So even before I knew what list building was, I learned my first lesson about list building, which is kind of cool. Well, this other guy, right after that guy got up on stage, this other guy got up on stage, and this little, short, fat, bald guy. Man, he was the most passionate person I'd ever seen in my entire life. I mean, I just remember this guy. He started talking about this thing called the internet. And to this point, for me, all the internet was a place to like send emails to your friends and look up funny stuff. But it wasn't like this cash machine that this guy was talking about. I mean, I remember two things this guy said. He said, number one, he said, if you stare at your computer long enough, money will come out, right? So I believed him, and he showed me this picture of a horse up on the big screen, and he said, you see this page? This page, this website makes me $1,500, $1,400, whatever, every single month. And if I can make that much money, I know everyone in the audience. He was sweating, just dripping sweat, and just so passionate. I mean, if only I could be like this guy, like it would be my dream. If only I could be like this guy. He said, everyone in here can make money online. Man, I believed him. And you know, like sometimes in life, you don't know how you get to that right situation, but somehow things come together and you end up in the right place at the right time. For me, sitting in that back row, it was like this guy was talking directly to me. The only thing I can equate that experience to was when I wrestled in high school. See, as a little kid, I was fat. I weighed like 198 pounds in the 8th grade. And it was because I took prednisone, and I had really bad asthma. And what prednisone does is it's a catabolic steroid, so it blows you up, you know? So this little short fat kid, and I hated wrestling, but we had to do it. We had to do like 3 sports. My father told me I had to wrestle, so that's what I did. I hated it, because like this little short fat kid wearing a little leotard deal, right? In front of all of these people, just losing all the time, just getting demoralized. For what? You just laying there and your little man nipple from your man boob is hanging out on the side. You're getting your ass pinned. There's nothing good in that experience. And so I hated it until I got to high school, and there was a senior on the team. His name was Eugene. And it was the coolest guy I'd ever seen in my life. I mean, this guy, like he didn't talk much. He would just go out there like this. The ref would blow the whistle and he would just like go like that, and he'd pin everybody. And for whatever reason, I felt this feeling like I needed to be like Eugene. I was curious, what would it be like? What would it feel like to be that good? And that gave me the reason why for me to get good at wrestling. So I started to practice harder. I started to go to all these different practices and tournaments and things like this. And what that meant to be good for me was he was all Met, which meant he was in the Washington Post. At the end of the year, he was one of the best wrestlers here in this area. For me to be like him, I needed to be all Met. Make a long story short, I went from a little short fat guy to one of the best wrestlers in my state, and I loved everything about wrestling until I got to college. And the reason is right at the end of high school, I lost to this guy that I don't think I should have lost to, because I beat myself, really. Like I got myself intimidated, and I went out there and I got myself pinned. And just so you guys get this part of me, it's that I put my whole soul into wrestling at that point in my life. And I felt like I betrayed myself. I couldn't understand it, but I like just distanced myself from wrestling. I couldn't love it the same way anymore. And it wasn't until I didn't have that feeling that I realized how valuable what I had lost was. So this moment right here, when I was sitting, listening to this guy talking about the internet, I had the very same feeling. I needed to figure this out. This was my new journey. This is my new quest. So I went out, and I remember the first thing I did, and so this is when we're getting into rules, right? I went out, and I just started searching around the internet, make money stuff, and I remember I came across this website. It was called Google Cash. And it was all about pay-per-click marketing. It was all about sending people to these little affiliate offers and having people buy those offers and having them, after they buy, you earn a commission on that, getting paid from all that stuff. I thought that was awesome. I thought that was magic. I mean, look at this guy who's making $300 and some odd $1,000 a year doing this. I wanted to do it. But the book cost $67. That's when I knew like this world, like this internet thing was not like the regular world. So, right, distinguishing regular world from the other world. Because no regular book like this, they don't cost $67. Those things, they weren't even real books, they're just PDFs. And I was just pissed at this guy for trying to charge me $67 for some electrons, right? Well, 3 hours of internal battling, I got over it and I bought it. And, you know, like any good addict, it's not the first hit, but it's the second hit that gets you. So after that, I was pretty much in. But here's the thing about all this is when you have the right offer, right, with the right prospect, what happens? They'll sell themselves, right? That's huge leverage. He didn't have to be there to sell me. I sold me. And I didn't even want to sell me, right? I was pissed at the guy. So I started going around the internet, doing all this, learning all this stuff. I remember maybe 3 months later, after spending a few $1,000s, I had my very first commission. It was for this MP3 website, and on that website, I think I made like $15 in terms of commission. But just the fact that I sent some traffic to a website, and some person that I'll never, ever meet bought that thing, and I got paid for it. It was like powerful. I don't know how to say it. It was awesome. And I needed more. And well, I had a lot more to learn. So like, I remember in this period, some of the things that I would do is like, I would go, do you guys remember like American Greed, right? American Greed is all about Ponzi schemes. Well, online they have these things called like high yield investment programs. And I was like, this is the greatest thing ever. I just put some money into an eGold account. I remember going to the bank, signing forms, transferring money to eGold, like this was gonna work, right? Putting it in these high yield investment programs and getting 8% per day for maybe 5 or 6 days. And all of a sudden, you see this notice. This is a scam, you know, the powers that be have closed this site down, and with that, there went all my money. Now, I'm not the regular sort of stupid. I probably did this 3 or 4 times. You know what I mean? No, I think I can get this right. So like the internet itself is just like this magical place I wanted to figure out. I spent a lot of time doing that stuff. I was hanging out in like safe lists and traffic exchanges, just trying to learn this stuff. And then I came across this concept called network marketing. And I remember it was the most awesome thing I'd ever heard. It was almost as awesome as the internet. And I figured, like, while I was out there doing all this crazy stuff, I might as well do it with other crazy people. And that's what network marketing was all about, right? So I wanted to build a network marketing team online. And I found this product by a guy named Frank Guerin. And it was called Network Marketing in the Internet Age. that spoke to me like nothing else. I got on the guy's mailing list. I read all his emails. I bought this thing. I listened to it probably like 80 times. Like, it's so many times. Like, probably my girlfriend at that time dumped me because of how many times I listened to that thing. It was obsessive, the amount of times I listened to this. And finally, I got the gusto, the nerve to call him, because I figured, if I want to do this, I might as well do it with this guy, right? He's got all the answers. So that's the cool thing about having a list, right? And establishing a relationship. It's a good lesson to learn is one sale from a good customer will lead to another sale and a bigger sale. Because that's what I did. I bought his thing and I said, hey, how can we do more business together? He didn't have to do anything. So lists are pretty powerful things. Well, what happened is the only part of the internet that really he had to offer once I met him is he got me involved in an opportunity. He said, okay, Daegan, let's get started. So he gave me a script. It was like 3 pages. And he said, all right, come to this website. It's called ProStep. And get the, I think it was like the $799 lead pack. Those are the best leads. Get those. So I did, right? I did. And there I would be. People had to think I was crazy because I'd be driving around in my black Ford Taurus in DC with my like medicine bag as a pharmaceutical sales rep, just blabbering to nobody, practicing this script. You know what I mean? Well, 7 months of doing this, and the only thing I got was rejection. It sucked. Not one single person said yes. And you know, here's what I learned also about list building and advertising and things is that the wrong offer sent to the wrong prospect, and you're gonna go broke. You know what I mean? You can try it a million times. The only thing that's gonna happen is you're gonna keep losing money. So I finally wised up. I got out of that I guess I'd call it a relationship, right? I ventured out on my own. I said, like, if I'm gonna do this, I gotta figure it out for me. Forget about what that guy's doing. I know I can figure this thing out. And what I ended up finding was a company called Success University, and it was awesome. It had everything that I thought I needed for building a business like this online. It had an awesome converting offer. It had a free trial. I remember as soon as I saw it, I joined. I was like, I'm in. The next day I went to the Warrior Forum, which is a forum for internet marketing, and I went through all different types of traffic, honestly. I thought about, so again, right here what I'm doing is I'm gonna be talking about newsletter traffic and list building. So I'm saying, I thought about all the different types of traffic that I could get. I could go and do pay-per-click marketing, I could do SEO, I could do article marketing, et cetera, but all that stuff was either hard or took too long. And when I thought about it, newsletter marketing really seemed like the simplest thing, the best thing. I mean, what's better than leveraging someone else's list? You better not fall asleep on me. You better be. Push-ups, it's push-ups. Is this valuable, by the way, like going through like this? Yeah. Yeah? Okay.
Yeah, it's really good.
Okay. I figured newsletter marketing would be the best way to do this because what's better than leveraging someone else's list that's already in your industry to build your business and your own list, right? So I go to the Warrior Forum and I find this list from a guy named Dr. Manny. And the newsletter, I think he said, hey, I'm not really doing much with this newsletter. Does anybody want to buy advertising to it? Yes, of course I want to buy advertising to it. And it was like $30. Is the best thing I've ever done. $30. I gave him $30. I stole someone's ad. I had no idea how to write any ad copy. And I gave it to him. And maybe 3 or 4 days later when I went to work, I kind of forgot about it. The ad went out. And when I got home, I remember going to my computer. I couldn't believe what I saw because as I was looking at my email, I was like, all these emails saying, new lead, new lead, new lead, new lead, and new sign up, new sign up, new sign up, new sign up. I was like, oh, I feel like a freaking idiot, right? Because $30 and me at work beat 7 months of getting kicked in the balls with rejection. This is clearly a better way, but why did I ever do that other stuff? This newsletter marketing stuff was extremely powerful. So I kept doing it, and I became successful, so much so that the owner of the company asked me to write a product, create a product to talk about my success. And so I created this product. It was called Internet MLM Success. And one thing that I learned is when you have a product and you can leverage someone else's list, you can create insane incomes. Because the first thing that he did is he sent an email out to the entire company, and in less than a day, it created like $6,700. I was like, oh, I'd never seen that much money before. That was crazy to me. I mean, just one email, $7,000 to a list. I want one of these things. I need a list. I need a bigger list. This is a very good thing. So my business continues to grow, and Matt invites me to my very first online marketing seminar, and it's called the Underground Online Seminar. It's here in Washington, D.C., and I was really shy. Like I didn't think I deserved to be there. It was weird for me. It's $800 is more than I'd spent on anything ever. And I remember walking in there meekly. Like I bet when I did meet Russell and I did meet Telman, I bet I didn't say very much, right? Like I was probably just like sitting there, like,
Just kind of hanging out.
yeah.
We were all trying to ignore you.
Mm-hmm.
Really.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't have any wrestler with us, I remember.
Yeah, I was like, I'm a wrestler. Don't look at me. But it was amazing. It was an amazing experience because I realized that these knuckleheads weren't any smarter than me. They're mostly dumber, you know what I mean? So thank you guys. You gave me the belief and the confidence that maybe I could do this here thing too. But what was most important is I saw this guy get up on stage and talk about emailing his list. This guy named John. And what was so powerful for me about that was that he said, I started with just a little idea in my head and wanted to start from absolute scratch, and in less than 18 months or something like that, I turned that little idea into $1 million business. That blew me away. Just one small idea, how can a person take a little idea and turn it into $1 million business? That's what I wanted to do. That's exactly what I wanted to do. So at the end of that deal, John gave the opportunity for people to take consulting, but it was $10,000. It's more money than I ever spent, but I knew I needed to. And I couldn't pull the trigger. I couldn't do it the first time. I felt bad. I saw John in the hallway, and I was like, kind of psyched myself up to like go see if I could get a second chance. And all I could do was I walked up to him and was like, that was an awesome presentation. And I walked away, and so even though this experience was like crazy awesome for me in terms of insight and meeting people, I felt a little deflated because there was something there that I needed to do, but I didn't. It was too big of a leap. I mean, because I was trying to, how can I rationalize this? $10,000 for one person's day, one person's time. Like I can't go to my father and say, do you think this is a good idea? Hey friend, do you think if I give this guy $10,000 for a day, should I do it? They're all gonna call you crazy, right? So, luckily I got a third chance. I searched John out online and I got on his list. And as I did, I actually started to build a little bit of a list myself, and I started to apply strategies. So my business doubled. So I went from like $3,000 or $4,000 to $8,000 in a month, and then to 16. And then I got the balls to basically go and do a consultation day with them. And it was awesome. It was amazing. That doubled my business again. But the most important lesson I learned in that day is when I looked at this guy's business, the first thing that I thought to myself was, where's all the traffic coming from for this $1 million business? I need to see the secret source. And what John showed me was the exact opposite of what I thought it was going to be. It wasn't one magical source of traffic. It was literally just lots of little streams. And I didn't get it. So I said, why do you have your business like this? And he told me something that I'll never forget. He said, you know, Daegan, I don't know about you, but I like to sleep good at night. And a business with one source of traffic, that ain't gonna let me sleep good. There's no stability. If that source goes away, my business goes away. So I diversify my business because it creates stability and that lets me sleep good. So what I started doing is, when I went home, is I started to buy as many different newsletters as I possibly could. I've created more products, so I'm going through progress. I'll go through this really quick. And I sent bigger ticket products to my list. So I built a $500 product. Boom, that created my first $10,000 day. That was awesome. And I took my ideas and I turned those into a marketing system called Power Prospecting System. And man, that took my business a very steady $30,000 to $40,000 per month. And you know, the thing that I learned is that if you can get other people to help build your list for you, because this was an affiliate system, man, it's really one of the most powerful places you can be in, because a lot of the traffic that we got was from other people just using the system to build their business. Let's see, what else for progress should I share? I'll share a little bit more because I won't do the whole thing. But you guys are getting the feel for this. All I'm doing is I'm making sure I have one thing for here, some ideas of rules. This is a different world. When I'm going through progress, things where I'm going up, I'll share a couple things where I go down. Here's a cool thing, just as a side note. Have you guys heard of a guy named Kevin Hogan? Yes. I was reading one of his newsletters a couple days ago, and it was about a test, a persuasion test. He's a persuasion master or expert. And one of the things that they tested was they put parking tickets, or what looked like parking tickets, on people's window shields on their car. So there were three groups. One group of people had nothing on their car. Another group of people had what looked like parking tickets, but there were coupons in it. And another group of people had real parking tickets, right? And what they wanted to test was people's compliance. If they asked them something after they had this experience, what would they do? So after they either opened the ticket and it was or was not, they would go over and ask them if they'd be willing to donate blood or do something for charity. The people that didn't have a ticket, some responded, like 20, 30%. The people that got a real ticket, none of them said yes. They were like, no, I hate you. You know what I mean? But the people that got what they thought was a ticket, but there was a coupon in there, they responded the most. Like 60% of them said, okay, yeah, I'll absolutely donate blood. And it's because of this whole, emotional, I call it like emotional yoga. I don't know what the right word is if you put a person in a situation that feels like really bad, and you let them out of it, they become much more compliant. So the reason I share this with you is because in your story, I like to always have like lows and highs, because that creates that sort of relief, right? So if I was going to go deeper into this guy's story, what I would do is I would say, Power Prospecting says, I partnered with this guy, we did well, but eventually he absconded to Sweden and destroyed the business and left me with the entire tax bill. It put me in a pretty not great state for a little bit, and I literally had to start all over again. Luckily, I had my list, right? So really all I had to do was launch something new to it. And I remember I was at an event, just like this one, and this guy named Carlos Garcia got up on stage, and he started to talk about traffic like on a level that I'd never experienced before. Good morning. You can feel his pain. Traffic on a level I'd never experienced. So he's talking about like billions of clicks, like millions per month and billions of clicks, more than like Fortune 500 companies, huge amounts of traffic. And I remember this one thing that he shared, because for me, I thought like $100,000 or $1 million a year would be cool. Like, that's awesome. And I was probably doing like, well, at that point I was back to almost nothing, but at a certain point I was probably doing 40, 45-ish, something like that. This guy was talking about $5 million a month. He was making $5 million a month. And his refunds were $500,000 per month. So his refunds were bigger than my biggest expectation for what I could build. So I needed to learn stuff from this guy. He had an offer, it was $25,000 for a weekend to learn how to master traffic to really scale and grow my list. So I go to this weekend, amazing weekend, come up with a new offer, which Russell promptly stole. And that created my very first $1 million business. It was this little free CD offer, and I went to these things called the CPA networks and big lists and all sorts of different things to really pile on the traffic, and the business grew tremendously. It was the first time I had probably 4,000 people on $40 per month continuity, all sorts of one-time offer sales. It was just an amazing feeling for the first time to just be looking at my daily income statement and realizing that very consistently it was definitely more than I made in a month every single day. This is an awesome feeling just from this whole internet thing. But I learned an important lesson with this business. Not all customers are created equal. Now, I share this part, just stepping out of it, because when I get to list publishing, I bring up that there's no better customer than a traffic buying customer, right? Because who needs traffic? Everyone does. Who needs the most traffic? The people with the biggest businesses. So if you can provide traffic, who becomes your customer? The best customers in the marketplace, right? So what was I talking about here? Yeah, 4,000 people. Oh, here's what I learned. So a big business is not always a good business. So I basically built up this thing that I couldn't sustain because I was attracting the wrong customers. And because of that, I had all sorts of issues, all sorts of refunds and chargebacks and bad stuff showing up from me online. And you can still go to scam.com, you see me, it's still there. But I didn't do anything wrong, I just didn't know any better. And so what I learned is a lot of traffic but the wrong offer, and your business will implode. Like, you just can't sustain it. It's just not gonna work. What happened to me is right around after I had $1 million, $100,000, $120,000 per month consistent business, I got a letter from my merchant account that said, we don't want to do business with you. So there, I go back to scratch again. That one was hard for me. I mean, it took me a couple of months. And honestly, if it wasn't for Rob, who's my operations manager, I don't know if I would have been able to get back into things because I lost all hope. I didn't think I was good enough for some reason. And he would get on the phone and he'd say, come on, man, this is stupid. This is just get up, let's launch something, let's do something again. This is just a trial, come on, let's go. And about a month or two of that, and it started to work on me. So I came up with a new idea. I tried to learn from my last lesson, don't choose the wrong customer. And I came up with this idea for a business called Maximum Leverage. And Maximum Leverage was in the same marketplace, but I just spoke to better people. I just had a different message, and I charged more. And what happened is, where it took me 18 months or so, or 13 or 14 months to build the first $1 million business, because I chose a different target audience, charged them more, I had a lot better customers, and it only took me about 5 months to get back to $1 million or so per year. And feeling high and mighty and like I do have this stuff figured out, I end up going to Maui, Hawaii for an internet marketing seminar. And at that seminar, first off, I go to like a minute of it, and the rest of the time we're just like hanging out in Maui. There was a flood warning or a tsunami warning. And were you there? Yeah. We were up on like Mount Haleakala just like hanging out because we wanted to get to high ground. And it was right there, I was like, man, I'm gonna move to Maui. So instead of going back to the seminar, I just went to coffee shops, we looked through Craigslist, and I remember calling Kim in Maui, my wife. Now, she wasn't my wife then. I said, I think we're gonna move to Maui. She's like, you're crazy, no way. So I had to come back home and do some negotiating, but. But 2 weeks later, boom, we're living in Maui. I have this awesome house. It's got a saltwater pool, a hot tub, an elevator, just an awesome place. It's like, I go out on the lanai and you can like see whales jumping out of the water. I got banana trees in the backyard and all that stuff. And for the first few months, it was awesome. It was just the best time of my life. I remember 1 week we launched this new product, and I think we did like something around $90,000 in a week, which was huge for me in my business. It's the best week I had ever had. And I remember leaving Starbucks after checking, because there was a Starbucks that was right by, you just look outside, the ocean's over there. It's right on Kihei Road, that's where it is. And I remember excited, I go home, and normally when I go home, I would like go sit on the hammock out back, like get a banana, just like relax and look at my iPad. And I looked at my iPad this time, and I got this email, and it was not a good email. It was an email that, I'll say it like this. I never thought I would become a depressed person. I never knew what depression was, but I don't think now that I've kind of experienced it that I'd wish it on even my worst enemy, because after that point, progressively so, it didn't start immediately, my life turned into waking up, like if you've ever had like a nightmare and you wake up in a panic state, that's what it feels like every morning. You wake up and your life is like this nightmare. And every morning I would wake up in a panic state, go to the coffee shop, or go to the little corner store. I'd buy like a pack of Newports, promptly smoke like at least half of them immediately. Before the day was over, pound like 5 Red Bulls, and go home and drink like, I don't know, as many Fosters as it took to get me to sleep, just to numb me down. And you know, I'd smoke a pack and a half of cigarettes a day and drink and do all this because of this. Because what that email presented to me was a problem that I couldn't figure out how to solve. See, in my business, the thing I love about all this stuff the most is that I get to physically help people become successful. I get to see the tangible fruits of that labor. I remember the talk that Matt and I had that led to him now doing really well. Now, he did his own work. I'm not saying I did anything, but I remember a conversation we had, and I take great pride in the great results that he's having now. And because of what was in this email, I couldn't see the reality of it. I couldn't see the possibility of this. See, what was in that email is it was an email from Google, and Google said, you can't use us to advertise anymore. I learned diversification was the key, but high and mighty all again, I neglected this one thing. I got the other things right, but this time I got this one wrong. And the majority of my business was coming from Google. So I called all my friends, and no one knew what to do. No one. And I was normally the guy that people would call and like ask stuff, like, yeah, what are you gonna do with this? What are you gonna do with this? And so one time I called them, no one knows what to do, but on the flip side of that, I see more product launches, more things coming out that didn't address what I consider to be the core problem at all. And so it was strange because it really disheartened me to the entire industry, because I knew that they were in the same situation as me. Their businesses were pretty much imploding. Within a 3-4 month period, my business went from $150,000, $160,000 to $30,000 per month. That was the lowest point. I'll tell you why in a minute. And these guys were just out launching things that didn't deal with the core problem, which was traffic. See, what I realized is a lot of these guys out on the internet, they claim to be experts and gurus, right? But all they're doing is they're like finding one way to get traffic and making some money. If that goes away, there's nothing. That's the most dangerous person in the world to learn from. right? Like there's nothing there in a long-term sense for anyone. But yet this insanity continues over and over and over again. And I wasn't gonna play that game. I'd rather fail than lie to people and say that they can be successful in a long-term sense. And so it took me a while to come up with what I thought might work. But I remember driving to that same little corner store, getting out of my car, and right before I went to buy my next pack of Newports, I had an idea, and it was at a point where I had $30,000 left, about $30,000 left in the business, right? Now I have $30,000 worth of people expenses every month. So when this idea hit me, there's no going back, right? So point of no return. Either I do this and it works, it doesn't work, and I have to fire everybody, my business is gone. I literally have to start from nothing. The idea was this: no one in my industry cared about traffic. I mean, they cared, they wanted it, but no one was literally protecting our sources. No one was creating a safe haven. And so what I said to myself was, the one thing that had always been stable for me was newsletter marketing. If I did differentiate and diversify my business, then with newsletter marketing, I'd be stable. But not only that, if I did it in the right way, what I'd be able to do is make sure that the rest of too long? How long am I actually? Because I want to, what time is it now?
I'm talking about an hour and 10 minutes.
Good, all right, cool. When I go the whole way, I'll typically take like an hour, like a movie time, you know what I mean? If I did this the right way, I'd be able to at least help the industry by doing something I'd never seen anyone do before, which was creating a safe haven. If I find traffic that works for me, my idea was to use everything I had to go out and restabilize my business if I could. And then from what I found that was successful, start a little advertising agency. Whatever was working for me, I wanted to make it available to my customers. Well, the reason this took me a long time to get is because I've been very selfish, kind of like, when this point hit for me, what I realized that when I got into online marketing, I traded one type of sort of stability for another. A job is a certain level of certainty, right? Well, even though I thought I was being independent and free, when things got weird, I freaked out. Where's my stability? My business is gone. And well, for the very first time, when this happened, I realized that honestly, there is no certainty, because things always go up, they always go down. Who knows what's gonna happen next? And it wasn't until I had to kind of let go of the idea that I could create any certain future for myself, and I just committed fully to what I thought was a good idea, that anything happened. So I share that with you because for me, that was kind of a big lesson. Maybe you guys already know that. I didn't. At this point, I hopefully live in that good, but I didn't at that point. So I do this, and my business stabilizes, and we start this little advertising agency, and I move back to DC. And I moved back to DC because for me, Maui was awesome, but it wasn't the right place for me. And when I get home, things start to take off. Business starts to grow again. And then all of a sudden, I remember going to the mailbox and getting this letter, and the letter was from the IRS, and it said, Daegan, you owe us $983,000. And at that moment, all I could think back to was like, why? Why? I poured my heart and my soul into this whole thing. It went up, it went down. Even when I thought I was on the right track, here I am again, you know? And I didn't know what to do, but at least I had Kim with me. I don't know where she is now, but at least that day, I used to have Kim with me. And so she was just my soldier. She and I just worked at this thing together to try to fix it. And so the thing that I'm sharing this story with you for is this. It's one little simple idea. What I thought was key to success and creating a stable business online wasn't. And I didn't realize it until I was here. If I didn't get this figured out, I wouldn't just not have a business. I'd pretty much go broke, right? And well, as we were going through these receipts, Kim sent me one, and as soon as I saw this one invoice, it just, the only way I can describe is the way that I've already described it to you guys, right? And all I could think was, how could I be so stupid? Why didn't I see this? It was an invoice from this company called Archimax. And their business was the same, blah, 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 blah. We've already talked about it. The entire period that I'd been online, I'd done tens of thousands of dollars worth of business with this one company every single year. And here I was, ups and downs, and this business, steady Eddie, just crushing it. I was looking at the game the wrong way. It's not what you do, it's not getting the traffic that's gonna create the most stable business for you. It's being the provider of the traffic.